Well, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today for the first and the inaugural Grid Resilience Summit. We're delighted today that there's several hundred people that have registered for this event, and there's a lot of work that's been put into organising this event today. So we hope you get as much sort of value and enjoyment from the event as we've obtained from building it and putting it on for you.
Hi, folks. I'm Steven Sislovitz. I think my name is scrolled across the bottom here. It's a pleasure to be with you, and greetings from what appears to be a rainy early morning here in Northern California.
Thanks, Steve. So my name is Nick Ferguson. I'm the Chief Evangelist at Liveo. So I help electricity transmission and distribution companies to leverage new technology. And I've done so for the last 18 years. I'm also co-host of the UVM podcast with Steve. So Steve, this is our first rodeo, right?
Yeah, and let me talk a bit about our podcast. We'll get in the mandatory plug here. The subject of grid resilience, which is the topic today, has pretty much been the main focus for Nick and I on our podcast since we started. But rather than use the term resilience, our mantra on the podcast has always been our objective is no outages, no fires, and no one gets hurt. And as we go through a great many great panel discussions today, I'm betting the one thing we can all agree upon at the end of the today's session is the objective of no outages, no fires, and no one gets hurt is actually a pretty good objective for all of us to look or basically embrace. A little more background on the show. We've had the podcast for a few years now, and during that time, we've hosted everyone from CEOs of major utility companies, academics, and leaders of major NGOs from here in North America to our friends down under, and also from across the pond in Europe. We were very honored to win the Utility Arborists Association Education Award a couple years back, and have had some pretty good reviews from our listeners along the way. For those of you that aren't listeners but want to learn more about preventing tree and power line conflicts, Nick and I would love to have you listen in. It's available on pretty much every podcast platform, and it's free to listen. Well, Nick, enough of that podcast plug. Let's hear a bit about our webinar host, Liveo.
Yes, and a quick thank you to Liveo, who are the sponsors and organisers of this summit, which is taking place over the next 5 hours. For Liveo, they provide a holistic network-wide assessment of risk using satellites in space and also other sources, remote sensing and on the ground as well. This is to assist utilities with both routine vegetation management and wildfire mitigation. So example analytics available through the system would include things like vegetation growings, fall-ins, species health. And basically, this enables electricity transmission distribution operators to move from time-based to condition and risk-based programs. We'll be hearing later on from Kevin Patton at American Electric Power, who I had the privilege of sharing stage with a couple of weeks ago at the Trees and Utilities Conference in Knoxville, who have just deployed this capability system-wide on their transmission system. It's the largest transmission system in the States, some 40,000 miles of lines. So yeah, thanks again to Liveo, who have sponsored and organised the Grid Resilience Summit. Steve?
Yeah, let's start up with a few background bits of information that we probably all are already aware of. Our electric grid is a massive machine that contains over 4 million miles of transmission lines and 10 times that many miles of distribution lines. For the most part, every foot of that line is exposed and subject to risk and change. Next slide, Nick.
Yeah, this grid that's already the largest machine on the planet is set for unprecedented growth. So by some reports, over the next 10 years, the transmission grid has to grow by about 57%. If you look at specific numbers for load growth and AEP as an example, they're expecting 65% load growth in the next 4 years alone. And the vast majority of that, about 3/4, is down to AI data centers. But also, of course, on the load side, there's electrification of industries. On supply side, renewables, nuclear, new things coming online to help support efforts to support the energy transition and net zero.
Yeah, and all of those challenges, Nick, are set against the backdrop of new external and internal pressures and vulnerabilities. Next slide. Uh, Changing environmental influences are making things a lot worse in our quest for resiliency. Wildfires, flooding, hurricanes, droughts, and even winter storms are not lessening up. In fact, they appear to be getting worse. And of course, the whole while we're trying to prevent damages from these events, people are out there today planting incompatible trees under and near our power lines, which will all add to problems in a few short years. Nick, next slide. Layered on top of these external influences, we also have to recognize our internal vulnerabilities. This includes aging infrastructure, rising electric demand, the growing complexities of running power systems, which demand SIPs enforced requirements or critical infrastructure protection requirements from groups like NERC, and of course, the increasing scrutiny and oversight of regulatory agencies. Next slide.
So the negative consequences if we don't improve resilience are pretty stark. Of course, there's major economic costs. So looking at the Swiss re-underwriting report for this year, in the first half of 2025 alone, there was $80 billion worth of property damage. But of course, there's business disruption, long-term costs if interventions aren't made today. Reliability issues, more frequent blackouts, longer restoration times, and cascading failures. On the safety side of things, there is significant fatalities caused by downed electrical equipment during storms, electrocution. Even during regular blue sky conditions, the largest killer in the green industries is vegetation in close proximity to distribution lines that is then worked by tree crews that get electrocuted. So there's strong safety component to grid resilience. And then, of course, there's the regulatory and financial side of things as well. There could be criminal liability on managers, directors in utility businesses, penalties associated with non-compliance, and credit risk as well on both the equity side of things with share price impact and the debt side of things through credit rating agencies. So there's a lot at stake here. But there is hope. Steve?
Yeah, let me talk a bit about that. And I won't belabor each of these bullet points here. I want to focus on the first one. If we do a better job at resiliency, we will have fewer outages and faster recovery. And I want to add an old timer story here. When I worked as a utility employee in the 80s and 90s, when we knew a storm was coming in or when we knew a red flag event was about to occur, we basically ramped up our crews and had them stand by as the damage proceeded and basically damaged our facility, caused major outages, and then we would respond. Things changed out here in the West, and for that matter, in all fire-prone areas, it's becoming more and more of an issue. We now have a concept called PSPS, Planned Safety Public Safety Power Shutoffs, where rather than wait for these environmental problems to occur, we preemptively shut off the power. And what I am suggesting, and hopefully what we can get out of today's discussions here, is a way to reduce not only routine outages, but also reduce the frequency of PSPS events, because it's just not in the nature of a utility worker to say it's okay to shut the power off, and it's something a new phenomenon we need to address. And of course, if we do a good job, we can, of course, safeguard critical infrastructure and services. It obviously supports economic stability. If the lights are on, the businesses are working, enables clean energy transition. And finally, as we're all aware, an improved and more resilient electric system provides enhanced customer satisfaction and the all important shareholder confidence. Next slide. Yeah, well, Nick, these are lofty goals, but I don't think you and I are going to be able to address these issues specifically by ourselves today.
Yeah, so I think we need some help from others, Steve, and that's why we've enlisted some very knowledgeable, seasoned and experienced people from across the industry that will hopefully bring some very unique and interesting viewpoints to the debate. So we've got utilities attending today as speakers, lawmakers, we have technologists as well. So yeah, sort of really quite a broad spectrum across the industry, and this is the case of pulling together to meet the challenges of tomorrow and to pursue grid resilience. So quick bit of housekeeping for today. We've got several interesting sessions on various topics, all the way from hurricanes and weather events through to wildfires and mitigation plans, new technology and the use of that in grid resilience. So there should be something in this agenda for everyone. During each session, you'll see that there's a chat bar on the right-hand side where you can raise questions for the speakers. There will be some allocated time at the end of each session to address questions, but if the speaker's overrunning or we don't get to answer every question, then someone will follow up by email to make sure you get an answer to that question. All sessions are going to be recorded, so you'll be able to get a link after the event if you want to pass it on to colleagues or review any of the content again that you've seen and heard today. So on that note, what will happen in a moment is this screen will move to a timer with a countdown to our first speaker today. It will be Director Caroline Thomas-Jacobs from Energy Safety in California. So that's it from Steve and I for now. You'll hear from us again on various panels throughout this morning, and then you'll hear some closing remarks from us at the end, where we have the hard task of pulling together, synthesizing various comments made throughout the day to some sort of conclusions and take-home comments. So that's it from Steve and I for now. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. We'll see you shortly.